Gotcha.
All right. So, hey, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you.
Yes, yes. It's a pleasure to meet Ian Balina. Um, my name is John Karanja. I'm the founder of an organization called Hidab Africa, based in Nairobi, Kenya. And we've been doing acceleration of blockchain technology across the African continent. We've gone to 7 countries, mainly focusing on financial and energy access. So we've built, we're building blockchain applications around financial and energy access. Um, I also happen to be the co-host of the Black Blockchain Summit, which is why we're on the call with you today. And essentially, the Black Blockchain Summit is sort of an idea that came up when I did a tour across the United States with my co-host, Mr. Sinclair Skinner. Um, and we were promoting an application called Bitmari that was seeking to empower the African American community and bring them into the blockchain space. Because largely, as we traveled, we found a lot of people had not really heard about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, or if they had about it, they had heard about it from the context of scams and pyramid schemes. So we decided to sort of create this summit in DC. Happened last year was our first edition. This year it's happening at Howard University on September 9th and 10th.
Yeah.
And we are basically bringing a lot of the, not just Black thought leaders, but thought leaders in the space, such as yourself, Ian Balina.
So thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure. And actually, it's something I've been meaning to do because being somebody who's been in DC, I've never really been on Howard's campus.
Yes.
Right? Because who went to GW, to George Washington, right? I never really had a reason to be on the campus. I mean, I've kind of been in the area, but never on campus.
Yeah.
So now to finally have a reason to be on campus and to go there is very, for me, it's very humbling. Right. So thank you guys so much for the invite. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you'll be one of our keynotes at the summit, and we really want sort of our community to know what exactly Ian Balina is about. And if you could sort of give us a brief history about yourself, because you're Ugandan originally.
Yes.
So how did you end up in the United States?
Yeah, well, I was born in Uganda. I came to America when I was 8 years old in 1997. My father, he took the whole family with us to America for his PhD, right? I come from a family of academics, right? Both my parents were teachers, professors, right? Both have graduate degrees. So they were pursuing a better life, better opportunity, and also more education, right? So my dad came to America for his PhD in engineering. After 4 or 5 years, we stayed, and ever since then, I've been here, right?
How old were you when you left Uganda?
8 years old. I was
8 years old.
Yeah. So when I came to America, it was definitely culture shock, right? Both good and bad, right? Because coming from a country where it's all Africans, all people who look like me, then coming in a totally brand new world with totally different culture, right? It definitely took some time to get used to things, right? To get used to the new way of doing things, right? But yeah, so I've been here ever since then. Now I'm 30 years old, so I've been here 22 years in America. I love America, but last year I went back for the first time to Uganda because last year we had a crypto world tour where we did 35 countries in 12 months. And I saved Africa for last because Africa is my home, right? Because I knew when I'd go there, it would be special. And as an African, I know the best time to go is in the December, right?
Yeah.
The holidays.
Yeah.
Right?
Christmas and family is all there. So it's pretty awesome.
I went there last year, right? We had an event in Uganda. We had about 50, 70 people or so, right? Great turnout. And out of all the events I had in the world, that was my favorite event, right? Because there was just something, it was being home. There was something in the air, something with everybody there in the audience that felt like they were my brother or sister, right? Like even the jokes they were cracking, they were jokes I'm used to hearing people crack in the same manner at family functions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So to me, that was definitely the most heartfelt event I've had. Then I went back again this year in early June. I'm sorry, in early July. I went for the African Blockchain Summit, and
Yeah.
it was great. So now I'm basically trying to make it something where I can kind of go back and give back. And now with you guys being in my backyard here in DC, right? For me, it just kind of made sense to be there.
All right, all right. Yeah, I think there are a lot of opportunities in Africa for different aspects of blockchain technology. Yeah, so what would you say really got you into blockchain? What's your philosophy been? You come from two very different parts of the world. So how did that duality sort of influence you and prepare you for blockchain?
Yeah, I mean, so my background is both as an engineer, right? I went to school. I have a bachelor's and master's in computer engineering, so I'm a techie at heart. I love computers. I love technology, but I'm also a businessman, right? Ever since I was a kid, I've been very entrepreneurial. I've also liked investing, right? So basically, being able to mix the two of learning about technologies that are the wave, the next frontier, right? The next internet. Being able to learn about all these technologies and also being able to invest in them, right? Because I was dabbling in the stock market, and I had a very high appetite for risk compared to the average person, right?
Yeah.
Just by the nature of being an entrepreneur, being able to put your own money into something and knowing that there's a huge chance it could fail, right?
Yeah.
So by nature, I'm a risk taker. Right. So, and that's something I think most people in the crypto space have in common. And even in investing, I had been dabbling in penny stocks for about 1 year or so. Definitely didn't have any success with them. Right. Actually, it kind of made me jaded with the regular stock market. But when a friend of mine from DC, who actually went to Bowie, right? I was seeing him. I met him in San Francisco after a few years, and he kind of told me about blockchain, crypto. He told me all the money he was making, right? Because he was a Bitcoin developer, and he kind of got into it as a developer, and then bought some Bitcoin and was just holding it. And he told me he was making 100 to 200% just holding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I compared those numbers to the numbers in the stock market, and I said, if this is true, I have to try this out at least once to find out if this is legit, right? So my philosophy in life has always been to try something out once before you say no, right? So that kind of being an engineer or scientist, I always like to get real world data of something before saying this does not work, right? So I said, okay, let me hop on Coinbase, bought some Bitcoin and Ethereum. I put $100 into Bitcoin, $100 into Ethereum. And that was it. Then I just kind of said, okay, you know what? Let me learn more about this space, right? And now that I have a piece of a Bitcoin and a piece of Ethereum, Ether, I said, let me just learn more about the space, because I obviously knew that you want to know what you're investing in. Even, right? That's why I was kind of dipping my toes in first before going all in. So I got the books Digital Gold and the books The Age of Cryptocurrency, and read those books over the course of, I would say, 3-4 months maybe. Once I read those books, I was a believer. I was pretty much sold. So I began putting more money into crypto. Then early January 2018, no, sorry, early January 2017, Ethereum announced the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. And they had the likes of JP Morgan, Microsoft, Citibank, all these big companies, these big Fortune 500 companies. And I said, wow, this is legit. And the price of Ethereum doubled in a week and a half. And at that point, I turned about, I think, two and a half grand to $5,000 in a week and a half. And I said, holy cow, this is real. All right. So that's when I went all in as an investor. I began living and breathing, investing in crypto. Right. And then kind of the rest is history. I quit my job at IBM that year and began traveling the world as an investor, investing in companies, hosting events. And it's been a wild ride. to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, sort of following your journey, you had sort of a very quick sort of rise in terms of like how your your YouTube channel, how your sort of, is it a hedge fund, grew? It grew very quickly.
No, so I mean, I'm just more of an angel investor, right?
Yeah.
I invest my own capital. I don't invest anybody else's capital. And that's something I've always been, for me, I don't like managing other people's money because then their problems become your problems.
Yeah.
Right. So I've always wanted to kind of just focus on that. But I do have an investment and advisory company, but it's just purely our own capital, right? That's 100x Advisors. That's a firm we formed 2018, right? It's me and my business partners, and we've traveled around the world. We've made, at this point, over 15 investments in 15 different countries in the blockchain space. So we definitely have a global focus.
And what was that experience like? There's a lot of, you are a controversial figure. There are people who like you.
Yeah.
There are people who don't like you, and there are people who positively hate you. Hate you. I mean, so how do you deal with that?
I mean, I think as somebody, kind of going back to what I said earlier, right? Being an entrepreneur, you're used to going against the current, right? Yeah. You're used to, because as an entrepreneur, you have to believe in something before anybody else believes. And you have to believe in it. You have to have the vision to a point where even if the whole world is telling you no, you still believe it. And that's what makes you successful, right? Because you're able to kind of go through all that, whether controversy or what have you, to build the next thing, right? So imagine Travis Kalanick when he was building Uber, right? Or anybody who's built anything great has had to really go up against lots of opposition. Right now with me, right, obviously I was basically the poster child for the ICO space, right? So when the ICO bubble went all the way to the moon, right, I was basically like as some people have called me the king of ICOs, right? But when ICOs came crashing, right, as a byproduct of me being the king of ICOs, I came down crashing with them, right? Because some people were jaded by ICOs, and me being the poster child for that energy kind of carried over towards me, right? But for me, the way I view it is, I mean, I'm obviously I'm a human, right? I obviously made mistakes, right? I definitely think there are many things I could have done differently, right? But for now, I mean, the point is just to kind of learn from my mistakes and kind of do things now in a proper fashion, so that whenever the next wave comes, everything is kind of done in a proper manner. Right, that's kind of why I've been more behind the scenes, building lots of different projects in the blockchain space, with 100x Advisors, and now also launching my own blockchain company, KuCoin Metrics, right? And the idea is to really fix lots of the weaknesses we had with everything I was doing in the last 1 to 2 years, right? We kind of sat down with very expensive lawyers, very expensive regulators, and just really trying to figure out how we can make this in a manner that can scale to the masses, right? Because when my YouTube channel was made, it became very popular. I had over 100,000 subscribers. Yeah. One of the reasons why I stopped posting content was I knew that in the manner I had done it did not scale, right? It could not scale to 1 million users or more, especially as blockchain investing, ICOs were now going more towards private sales, towards private investors. And the original ethos the community had of having everybody being involved in the original token sale, the initial token sale or token offering, now became something just for the rich and powerful, right? And I knew me creating content, right, trying to analyze these projects, if only the rich and powerful could get in, was not something that could scale. Right, so that's why I kind of took a step back, and it was just mainly doing the world tour and doing less content, even though my audience may have not liked that, and they felt like maybe I abandoned them, right? I felt like the manner it was in could not scale with the level of demand it was creating. Yeah. I mean, that's very interesting. I want to come back to the point of sort of, Black people, whether in Africa, whether in the United States, they don't have many examples of
entrepreneurs such as yourself, sharing the experiences, sharing sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because I mean, as far as I know, every entrepreneur that succeeded, Steve Jobs, in today's time, Elon Musk, they've gone through very heart-wrenching or through massive failures at some point, and they've sort of learned from that and sort of moved on ahead. I think that's sort of something that those kind of stories are sort of missing within the black community. Um, I mean, the other thing that I liked is sort of also using data and being very meticulous, trying to figure out scientifically what's going on. And I think that's exactly what Token Metrics is as a product will do.
Yes.
Yeah. So we also have at Bit of Africa, we have a product called Cointest, and it's very similar to Token Metrics. It looks at code, goes through all the GitHubs for all the coins, and tries to see which projects are being actively developed. Yeah, because a lot of people invest in shit coins and lose money, or even worse, they get into pyramid schemes like Ponzi schemes like BitConnect.
Yeah.
And those have taken a lot of money. They've sucked a lot of money from the black community as well. So just speak on that. How can we get people to actively use these tools? Because that's a challenge I face every day.
Yeah, I mean, so I would say for me, I've kind of seen how it works from how I built my audience.
Yeah.
Me just creating content, right? So people began following me. Besides my ICO video, I had live streams and weekly videos going through and showing them how I research a project.
Yeah.
And I'll go through and show them my spreadsheet, all the different metrics in it and why, right? So I feel like that's kind of the blueprint. And with Token Metrics, we want to achieve the same thing. So we'll be creating content and kind of walking people through how we're reviewing and analyzing projects. And we think through education, people can begin to use tools. So I would say through education and through content, right? Those two things, I think, going hand in hand, can get people to become better investors when it comes to investing in the crypto space and avoiding scams.
Yeah. I think what I liked most when I discovered Bitcoin is the fact that it's neutral. You could be from a village in Uganda, you could be from Washington, D.C., but you have the same sort of opportunity to access sovereign money. And I think that's a very powerful tool. So in that regard, what do you think the future of the blockchain and crypto space is? We've seen a lot during these past 2 or 3 years. What indicators are you seeing that will drive sort of what you call the next wave?
Yeah, good question. I would say, I think the next wave is probably, in my opinion, obviously not financial advice, just more from a technology standpoint. I believe that most altcoins will die, right? Actually, they're dying right now, right? Also, altcoins, basically alternative coins, any coin besides Bitcoin, for the most part is dying, right? And this has happened through every bull and bear market, right? So similar to the .com era, right? When pets.com and all these other random sites had huge valuations, they ended up crashing and going out of business. But a few giants stayed, right? The Googles, the Amazon, the eBays, the Ciscos, right? There were still those big titans that basically weathered the storm. So I feel like in this current market, right, lots of projects we thought were good are dying. And as my friend Miho says, hope dies last, right? So I feel like now is really a time, which I've kind of mentioned before and kind of had some backlash for, right? As somebody who used to invest in lots of altcoins or ICOs, at this point, I'm becoming more of a maximalist. I think almost most projects are horrible, right? Because the criteria to make money back then has back to 2018 or 2017 has shifted to where in 2019 and 2020, things have to be a lot more stringent, right? Now there's a lot more regulation. Now we all realize that most projects were just pump and dumps, right? Through market making or what have you, right? Now we know, now crypto investors are more shrewd and smarter, right? And they're requirements for investing in something are much, much more stringent. So, and then we also have the large, big companies like Facebook, JP Morgan, all these, Samsung, all these big companies getting into the space. And I feel like for anybody to invest into something, they have to ask themselves two questions. Whatever this person is building, can they compete with Facebook Libra? Can they compete with Telegram Ton? Right? All these big companies that are well-funded, can they compete against them? Or can they even compete against Bitcoin itself? Right? So for me, I don't really see many altcoins that can weather the storm right now. Right? I think most altcoins, for the most part, have been hype. Right? And I think we can kind of just see that in the last 1 year or so. Right? Because once the hype moves on, because investors, they kind of have the next shiny object syndrome. Right? They invest in something, 2 months later, they move on to something else. Right? Yeah. They're all kind of coming in waves and spurts. And in terms of the future, I think these big companies that have already kind of proved themselves, like Telegram Ton, right? I think that, so if you're a developer and you want to build on something, you have so much, besides Ethereum, right? You have Telegram Ton, Facebook Libra, where the technology is fundamentally sound, right? I mean, sure, some people say it's not decentralized, what have you, right? But I'm sure I'm sure that there are already open source versions of that, right? So what is some random person anywhere in the world doing that is going to be better than this, right? So I feel like in a way we're going to really shrink, and it's going to be where 80% of the attention is on 20% of the projects, right? So basically Pareto's law, right? So I still think altcoins will still exist long-term because people just like to speculate on new things, right? So I don't think they're fully going to go away.
Like penny stocks, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Like penny stocks, right? Penny stocks are still there in capital markets, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of the future, I mean, even me myself, like I'm just selling all my altcoins, right? Any altcoin I have right now, I only have it because it's locked up or vested. It makes no sense to take on the risk, right? Because back in 2017, the only reason to invest in altcoins or ICOs was because the risk to reward ratio was perfect, right? But now you're having the risk with no reward.
Yeah.
As soon as that changes, right? As soon as that has decreased, it now makes no point to invest in altcoins or ICOs.
Yeah, yeah. I think on our side, what we're seeing with the GitHub data is about 5% of the projects are active. So I think you're sort of talking about 20, 30 projects is probably quite realistic. So that's cool. So in terms of like all this experience that you have, what key advice would you give the community that sort of as a rules of thumb that they can use on a daily basis to navigate the blockchain space?
As in terms of what? In terms of
general rules of thumb.
General rules of thumb. I mean, I would say first, practice good security, right? If you have any crypto, somebody.
Talk about security. I read something. Is it true?
Yeah, as somebody that was hacked for over $1 billion, right? I say you have to have hardware wallets, right? If you're storing any crypto, and you have to be paranoid with your security, right? Because there's so many ways because crypto is still a nascent industry, and there's lots of shady characters, right? From hackers trying to hack your crypto to scammers trying to scam you, telling you, hey, give us your crypto, we'll give you whatever, or right? Because once you send funds, they're gone. It's very hard to reverse a transaction in the crypto space. So you have to really, I mean, I think that's still one of the biggest roadblocks we have, right? Because, I mean, I know lots of professional investors who have been scammed in pool groups, right? Where they thought they were investing in this deal and it turns out it was a phony deal, or the person just took the money and ran, right? So I feel like there are lots of bad characters or even sociopaths in the space that it is very hard to navigate. But once you kind of get past the whole security, right, you definitely have to educate yourself in this space. you can't just be a passive participant in the space, right? I believe you have to be active to really have a good grasp of it, right? So from reading books about the space, like Digital Gold, The Age of Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin Billionaires, the Bitcoin Standard, right? Read these books and truly understand the space and where it came from, where it is now, and where it's going, right? And then become active. Go out there to events, right? Whether the Black Blockchain Summit or Consensus or just some local meetup, local Bitcoin crypto meetup in your area. Go out there and meet the actual characters in the space, right? The people, right? Because for me, that was very big because I was reading about it online and I thought it was just the dark web, right? A bunch of hackers, anarchists who are trying to overthrow the government. But when you go to meetups and conferences, you're like, wow, these are professional guys who work on Wall Street, guys who work in the government, lawyers, what have you, people who are pretty professional, right? They aren't like some drug dealers or some crazy person trying to overthrow the government, right? So that really shapes your perspective and where you think the space is going. So definitely tell them those three things in terms of navigating the space.
I think one of the things, we generally, because of sort of how our community is, we really don't talk about investment because people really don't have a lot of money to sort of invest at your level, for example. So we try and encourage people to sort of learn a way to earn crypto, which is what we try and do on a daily basis. That's how we get our crypto. So what do you think about that sort of a strategy where you just, the Bitcoiners say, get sats, accumulate sats, or just grow your portfolio slowly? What advice would you give sort of practically for somebody who just wants to start? Because somebody looks at one Bitcoin and they see $10,000, they're like, I can't get into, this space.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think before investing, you have to have the money to invest, obviously, as you said. And actually, before I was even talking about crypto, that's what I was doing on my channel. I was showing people how to make extra money through side hustles, right? Whether it's renting out your place on Airbnb or driving for Uber or selling stuff on Amazon or eBay, right? I think if you're hungry, if you have the hustle, right, to put in the hours outside of your work to make some extra money, you can then leverage that to reinvest it into the space. In terms of earning money passively or other avenues, I mean, I'm not too familiar with that besides just actively investing, right? I mean, I haven't really been the person to do airdrops per se. I mean, but I would say, especially nowadays with the smaller investors, IEOs are kind of becoming something for them, right? Where the whales are kind of blocked off, and now because the allocation amounts are very small, they're more for the smaller investors. Even with that, right? If you do your research, right? Obviously, you have to obviously be actively involved, right? You have to do your own research, find something that you think is good, and if you put some capital into it, right, then that could possibly make you some income, right? One other avenue, right, stablecoin lending. I know lots of people who are kind of getting more accustomed or putting more capital into lending, right? So, for example, if you go on platforms like Celsius and you basically just hold Tether, right? They give you about 8 to 10% annually, right? But that's obviously a lot less than some cryptos. But in a bear market, that's great. Right?
Yeah. I saw you actually running some nodes. I believe it was a MetaHash node that you built. And this is what we actually do. We train people how to take like a Raspberry Pi and run a node and use solar energy to get, to mine or stake the coins cheaply. That's what we train for engineers. So, I mean, what do you think of that model? Is that something that's also scalable in the future going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think staking is great, right? As you mentioned, we run 2 nodes for MetaHash staking. But I mean, kind of like with every altcoin, right? Like right now, just frankly speaking, MetaHash price has been decimated, right?
Okay.
So the staking is not so fruitful right now, right? If anything, we're actually losing money on the staking, I think. Right. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think if somebody's a brand new investor, they should just start with Bitcoin, right? then as maybe they become more familiar with things, they can maybe gravitate to altcoins in the top 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Do some analysis, try and figure out,
yeah.
which are the good projects.
Yeah. I mean, but I think long-term wise, I think staking is great if you find a good project that ends up surviving the storm.
Yeah.
Right? But at this point, it's becoming very tough to know which projects will survive the storm, right?
Yeah.
Unless they have big war chests of cash or have prior success.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very good advice. So as we sort of wind up our stream today, so the Black Blockchain Summit, the theme for this year is reparations and revolutions, and there's been a lot of talk in Congress, in the U.S. Congress, about sort of compensating, the African Americans, the Black people, even the Native Americans, for over 400, 500 years of sort of historical injustices, and people were looking at sort of the value that the amount of sort of work that the slaves and the people did over 400 years, they equating to something like $20 trillion. And then we're also looking at revolutions. How can we use disruptive technology like Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrencies to create new paradigms that such injustices don't happen again? So what would you say to that, having sort of seen the African experience through colonialism, through our parents and the grandparents went through that system, and then now seeing the American side for the 22 years that you lived in America? What do you think about that? And as you prepare sort of to give your keynote, can you give us a teaser on how what you'll be talking about, so that people can be excited and come?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think as the Black community or the African community, right? I think we definitely have gone through long histories of oppression, right? Which definitely make it tougher for all of us to really have a fair chance in terms of striving towards new goals, new opportunities, and we
even the capital to start.
Capital, right? So, right. So I definitely think we're at a disadvantage. And I mean, I know lots of other groups have had reparations in the past, and I'm definitely for that, right?
Yeah.
Although I'm an optimist, I'm also a realist, right? I find it tough to believe that the American government, at least in this current time, will even put the capital into it. If they do it, it's great, right?
Yeah.
But the way I view it is, I'm not waiting for them to give me reparations. I'm gonna go out there and try to make income, right? So that's kind of the channel I built. We're just showing people the way, right?
Yeah.
If they do it, great, but I'm not going to depend on it, right? Because quite frankly speaking, right, based on my experience, I guess living in a white man's world,
yeah,
right? I find it very doubtful that they would, because if it was that easy, it would have done it a long time ago.
Yes.
Right?
That makes sense. And so what I hear you saying is we have to build on the revolutions aspect, disruption through technology and so on.
Yeah. So I think frankly through financial education.
Yeah.
Right. So showing people how to find a good job, right? And then once you find a job, how to have a promotion, how to make money on the side, how to budget, how to build up your personal finances to a point where you then have some capital to begin your own business or to invest, right?
Yeah.
If you end up building your own business, showing you the way in terms of how to build a small business and how to really focus that on the African community, the Black community, African American community, right? And kind of giving back, right? So I think that's really kind of the way, right? I mean, obviously, no one will say no to money, right? But I mean, I think the best example I can think of is like this. Imagine you're a kid, right?
Yeah.
And there's this new toy you like, or this video game you like, and your parents tell you they don't have money now, but wait, they'll buy it for you later, right? You can either sit there and wait, or if you're a smart kid,
You hustle.
You hustle, right? You go there, you mow the neighbor's lawn, you wash cars, whatever. And a month later, you come back with the game. Your parents are like, how'd you buy that? You're like, I didn't want to wait.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Or you get into crypto, some crypto project.
Yeah.
All right. So what will your talk be about? The keynote?
I mean, to be honest, I think I'm just going to kind of share my story in the crypto space, my experience from traveling the world, right? And then also my experience as being Black and African in the crypto space, right? Both the good and the bad, right? And kind of like my journey through Africa when I came back to Africa for the Crypto World Tour, the people I've met, and really how to give back to the blockchain and African community, right? And get them involved in this, right? As you mentioned, right? The other theme of the conference is revolution, right? So when I was at the African blockchain conference, that was also the same theme, right? The fourth industrial revolution. And they're basically saying that, this is the big thing, right? We had the industrial revolution, right? And now we kind of have this coming. And for it to
do you think it will be, sorry to cut you short, do you think it will be a positive revolution? Because if you look at the other industrial revolutions, they were not so positive for Africans. And,
so actually that was something people were kind of talking and debating, right? I think one of the organizers there said that Africa has to be a part of that revolution. If they're not, right, he said Africa has to have a seat at the table for that revolution. If they're not, there will likely be what's being served on the table, right? And to me, that was very deep because, I mean, I see it going through Africa, right? In a way, they're kind of at the frontier, right? With M-Pesa, mobile money, right? We definitely have a use case. And I've met lots of other people out there, like Mamadou Toure, who's trying to give back with Ubuntu coin, right? And building a stable coin for Africa, right? And this week, actually, I was speaking with the Acoin team, right? And how Acoin is trying to bring cryptocurrency and blockchain to Africa, right? And I think we really have to be part of this revolution. Otherwise, we'll get left behind, right? And I feel like everywhere, right? Everywhere in the developing world, but me being African, right? Like I definitely want to see Africa part of this, right? And going there and being involved with the people and seeing what they're building, I definitely want to give back.
All right. Okay, so maybe now you can give your audience sort of your social media pages where they can reach you, your project. You can sort of share your links, so to speak.
So, I mean, I would say I'm working on Tokenmetrics, which is our brand new platform. It's an investment research platform where we leverage data, analytics, and machine learning to make people better investors, right? So if you want, right now it's still in private testing, but if you want to join in the invite list, go to tokenmetrics.com, go on there and put in your email. We also have lots of channels and content we're posting, right, through our Telegram channel, which is also there. Just go on Telegram, just search for Tokenmetrics alerts or Tokenmetrics discussions, and Tokenmetrics on YouTube and Tokenmetrics on Twitter and Instagram.
All right. Yeah, so once again, this is John Karanja. I've been speaking to Ian Balina. He will be one of our keynote speakers at the Black Blockchain Summit, which is happening on 9th and 10th September in Washington, D.C., Howard University. So thank you very much, Ian, for coming. We certainly look forward to your keynote. And of course, we invite your viewers to attend and sort of learn from different thought leaders at the Black Blockchain Summit. So thank you very much. It was great having a chat with you. Asante sana, as we say back home.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.